Tom, thanks for seeing me in what is a very unusual setting. It's amazing to see the tea room so empty. But we've got a big future ahead for the assembly rooms, I know. Can we, though, deal with the elephant in the room first? Could I just ask you why the Trust couldn't renegotiate a deal with B&NES to let the Fashion Museum stay in the basement, saving the council having to find £37 million and surely leaving enough space in the main rooms for you to develop your Georgian experience? After all, the authority has just given the National Trust Bathampton Meadows for free.
Well, we've been in discussion with the council for the last over 10 years since the current lease was signed. And back in 2013, when the current lease was signed, it was a short lease, really as a vehicle to enable both sides to plan for the transition of Bath assembly rooms. We indicated we were likely to want to take the building back early in that time frame. And the reasons why we want to do that is because we think this building has such a rich history to reveal to visitors. We think there's the opportunity here, not just in the ground floor rooms, but actually using the basement spaces as well, to really bring to life the Georgian stories associated with the building. And we know that visitors to the ground floor rooms, they are spectacular, as you can see, but people can come in and go out very quickly and not really get a sense of the rich history, the people who came here, like Jane Austen and Charles Dickens, and the kind of the scenes that would have unfolded here. And actually having the space within the whole building, including some fascinating spaces in the basement, such as the plunge pool, which we're looking forward to revealing, would allow us to bring a rich introduction to the Georgian stories of Bath, before you then come up into the ground floor and experience the ball, which is what we're trying to create here.
Does Bath really need another experience, though? We've got the Georgian House at number 1, the Roman Baths, the World Heritage Centre, Bath at Work, Bath Abbey's Discovery Centre, the American Museum, even Frankenstein's Monster House. What makes your idea so different?
Well, we think that the Bath Assembly Rooms was built as the social heart of the Georgian city. And through that, we have an opportunity to really tell the story of the social life of Georgian Bath. And we absolutely want to do that in conversation, in partnership with the other museums around. Each of those tell a different part of the story, and we want to kind of connect with what we're telling here to those places. So, for example, you mentioned number 1 Royal Crescent. There they talk about, in the stories there, about their characters, if you like, coming to the ball at the assembly rooms. And we know from our visitor research, people are fascinated to understand how this building worked. They want to be able to dance in the footsteps of Jane Austen, etc. And through that kind of basement experience where we're bringing together all those different stories about the social life of Georgian Bath, and we're signposting those places like number 1 or the Herschel Museum or Sydney Gardens, for example, all of which tell part of that story, but we provide that kind of introduction as well as the introduction to the ball to help people who are coming to Bath and want to really understand the Georgian experience to get out and enjoy that whole city.
This building was built as a place of assembly in the past with concerts, conferences, exhibitions, and even weddings. It's continued that tradition. Will all of this now stop?
No, we're definitely looking at the role of the building to still be a place of contemporary assembly. So we're really keen for things like concerts and balls to continue to be able to take place in the future. What we're talking about in our visitor experience is what happens mainly during the day when people come here and want to have the building brought to life. And then we're envisaging there'll be a whole nother life of the building in the evenings when these events can take place. There may be times in the year where the visitor experience is closed down in order for things like festivals potentially to take place here. So we're absolutely seeing that as a place of assembly, but in particular ones that anyone can come to. So there's perhaps a bit less emphasis on private hire that there has been here in the past, and more emphasis on those kind of public gatherings and assemblies.
You plan to complete your work by 2026. How is this transformation going to work out while still keeping the place open for events?
Well, we're really interested in this opportunity for meanwhile use, and actually we're talking about things happening this year. So within a month's time, we're looking at an exhibition from the Holborn. It's called Unlimited, that's going to be taking place in this room itself, which will be on for I think about 6 weeks and free for people to come and see. Later in the year, we're hosting Forest of Imagination over the summer. We're also looking at how we might open up the building to guided tours to see those spaces that people wouldn't have been able to see before, like the plunge pool I mentioned, or upstairs in the subscribers parlour, or the billiard room that we think was up there. There are lots of hidden parts of the building that people haven't been able to see, and we want to bring those to life.
You've got an awful lot of research to do now, haven't you? How have you worked out how this experience will shape out in physical form?
Yes, we've been doing, I guess, over the last couple of years, research into the history of the building. We hosted a conference to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the building being constructed in 2021, working with academics from universities across the country, so that we've got a rich understanding of the social stories associated with this building. And it's an ongoing process. We're working with volunteers to undertake research along those different themes. But in terms of how we then present that to our visitors, we're working with a design company called Sana International, who've worked on a number of big visitor experiences, not just in this country, but internationally as well. And we're looking at this combination of, as I say, using the basement spaces to bring to life that rich history and introduce different themes like dance and music and actually mentions of fashion and romance and those things, and why people came for assemblies, before then coming up into the ground floor rooms where we're looking at how we can make this as immersive as possible so that people feel like they're at the ball. They can encounter the characters we've introduced in the basement. They can try the dances. They can have a look at the learning Georgian games as well that would have happened in the Octagon. So we're working through those. We're at the concept design stage at the moment, but that is all coming together.
You make me think of two things there. One, that you've got to make an experience that appeals to all generations and all ages. And the other thing is how inclusive it's going to be. I mean, how many people, say, from the outlying districts of Bath, apart from tourists, would actually come to your Georgian experience?
So we've absolutely got how we work with communities at the heart of what we're trying to develop here. We've got now a team of a volunteering community manager and a senior volunteering community officer who are building work and relationships with a number of different organisations. So we're working closely with universities, which I mentioned, also City of Bath College. We're working in partnership with other heritage organisations as well that are also trying to work with communities that might find it harder to access places like the assembly rooms or other museums in town. And we're really keen to explore how we can develop future programming with them. So I mentioned the evening life of the building. It would be wonderful to kind of develop a program with community partners to make the best use of those spaces as well. But we're building into our thinking spaces behind the scenes as well, where there'll be opportunities for people to come and use those facilities.
Tom, this is a National Trust building. So if you're a member of the National Trust, you get in for nothing, do you, to all the things you are developing? And while we're talking about cost and entrance fees, have you any idea what sort of fees people who aren't National Trust members would have to pay to get into the building?
Well, at this stage, we haven't got the details of what that's going to look like in the future. We're working through what the kind of how it will operate as a visitor attraction. But yeah, that's certainly something we're developing for the future.
If this idea takes off, and obviously we all hope it will this bring more traffic into what is a residential area? I've been getting a few emails, concerns from people in this area. Parking is bad enough. What about all the extra traffic?
Well, we're absolutely seeing this as a core part of the city offer, if you like, and thinking that there's long been an ambition within the city to encourage people to stay for longer, so not just to do the historic core for a couple of hours, but actually to think about coming and staying overnight for 2-3 nights and seeing more that Bath has to offer. So that's how we're anticipating people wanting to come here. It's from either visitors who are here already, or it's for people being encouraged to stay longer rather than coming in, just to do the assembly rooms. It feels that the stories that we're telling here are absolutely intrinsic to the wider city, and it should be part of that overall city offer.
You've got some busy months and years to come. While I'm here, can I just mention Bathampton Meadows, something that the National Trust has recently acquired. What plans do you have for the Meadows?
So we announced the acquisition of the Meadows just over a year ago now, and we've also got, over the past year, we've been spending time making connections with local community groups, building relationships so that we understand the lie of the land around us. We also now have a community ranger who joined us in the autumn, who's got volunteer groups who are out there doing things like planting hedges and improving pathways. But later in this year, we will be bringing on a landscape architect to think about the future opportunities for Bathampton Meadows, because we've been really clear with taking on the Meadows. It's absolutely come from the community that they've been campaigning to save this green space that they love. But from our perspective, and we've talked about this all the way through, we think there's a big opportunity to improve that land for nature, to help us address the kind of the crisis in our natural environment, and also in terms of climate action as well. So we're really keen to explore what opportunities there might be for improving different types of habitat, maybe introducing some different types of habitat, looking at where it's appropriate for some tree planting to happen to help in the impacts of climate change, and also thinking about what opportunities there might be for increasing access, because quite a large part of the land to the east of Bathampton Meadows, near Bath Easton, only has access around the edge, and it would be interesting to explore whether there's opportunities to give more access to people there.
Well, as I said right at the beginning of the interview, B&NES is going to have to look for £37 million. Obviously, what you're doing here at the assembly rooms will have a cost. Will National Trust members be paying for it?
So in terms of how we fund the future project here, we're looking at a mixture of some internal funds that we have, but also looking at some fundraising as well. And we have quite a wide network of potential philanthropy that we can look at encouraging. And actually we've had lots of really positive feedback from people that we've talked to so far about this project, so we do think there is that scope for bringing that funding into the city, including working with, we have a partner organisation that's based in the States called the Royal Oak Foundation, and they're interested in this as well. So it will be a mixture. As I say, we're at the concept stage, so we don't have the details yet of exactly how we're going to look at the funding, but that's the plan.
Whatever your vision, it all comes down to money. Are you going into the rest of this year and the years to come with your fingers crossed, Tom?
Well, I think it's such a significant building, Bath Assembly Rooms, and there's such an opportunity here to look at things like also how we improve access in the building, how we can look at improving the building's performance in terms of carbon as well. So there's a huge amount that we can do for conservation of the building, improving access, improving its performance as a building for carbon, as well as creating this experience. And I think there's a lot of interest in that, and hopefully a lot of potential funding to support that.
Tom, thank you.